Hello students, welcome back to my channel, and in this video we are going to discuss about the metaphysical poetry. What is metaphysical poetry and what are the basic characteristics of metaphysical poetry, and what are the authors or writers that support metaphysical form of poetry. So let's get further into the details. A metaphysical poetry is a group of poems that share common characteristics as they all are highly intellectualized, use rather strange imagery, use of frequent paradox, and contain extremely complicated thoughts. Literary critic and poet Samuel Johnson first coined the term metaphysical poetry in his book Lives of the Most Eminent English Poets in 1179 to 1781. In the book, Johnson wrote about the group of 17th century British poets that included John Donne, George Herbert, Richard Grosser, Andrew Marvell, and the Henry Vaughan. He noted how the poet shared many common characteristics, especially one of with elaborate style. Sorry, this is misprinting. 1179. It's 1779. So when we talk about metaphysical, so what does it mean? So meta means after. So the literal translation of metaphysical is after the physical. Basically, metaphysics deal with the question that can't be explained by a science, and it questions the nature of reality in a philosophical way. Like here are some common questions: that does God exist? Is there a difference between the way things appear to us and the way they really are? And is everything that happens already predetermined? If so, then is free choice non existent? And essentially, what is the difference between the reality and perception? So, these are the basic things like consciousness. They talk about the consciousness. Is consciousness limited to the brain? So, metaphysics can cover a broad range of topics from religious to consciousness. However, all the questions about metaphysics ponder the nature of reality. And of course, there is no one correct answer to any of these questions. Metaphysics is about exploration and philosophy, not about science and maths. So, the characteristics of metaphysical poetry is a group of metaphysical poets that we mentioned earlier. Is all not the poets or philosophers or writers that deal with metaphysical questions. There are more specific characteristics that prompted Johnson to place the 17th century poets together. Perhaps the most common characteristic is that metaphysical poetry contain large doses of wit. In fact, although the poets were examining serious questions about the existence of God or whether a human could possibly perceive the world, the poets were sure to ponder those questions with humor. Metaphysical poetry also sought to shock the reader and wake him or her from his or her normal existence in order to question the unquestionable. Thus, the poetry often mixed ordinary speech with paradoxes and puns, and the results were strange, comparing unlikely things such as lover to encompass or the soul to a drop of dew. These were weird comparisons were called as conceits. Metaphysical poetry also explored a few common themes as they all are religious sentiment. In addition, many of the poems explored the themes of carpe diem, size of the day, and investigated the humanity of life. On the great way to analyze metaphysical poetry is to consider how the poems are about to both thought and feel about it. Think about. So, how could you possibly write the poem about the existence of God? And if you didn't have some emotional reaction of such an enormous life altering question, so it changes the perception and thinking about the reality and the imagination about believing in the power and the superpower and what exists behind the reality. It further investigates the relation between the rational and logical argument on the one hand and the intuition or mysticism on the other, often depicted with sensuous details. Many of the details are explored during writing the metaphysical poetry. And it is also considered as a highly ambiguous due to high intellect and knowledge of metaphysical poets. So some devices also like John Donne use complex dramatic expression and the variety of literary devices like extended conceits, paradoxes, and imaginary in colloquial and personal languages that challenges ideas of morality, traditional love, and carnality. And it is intellectually inventive, even jarring sometimes, because it makes and links to unlike things to create extended metaphors and anecdotes that is unique in comparison to the previous poets of his era, particularly means Spencer. So then we talk about the conceits, metaphysical. They are of central importance in poetry. It is usually classified as a subtype of a metaphor, an elaborate and strikingly unconventional or supposedly far-fetched metaphor, hyperbole, contradiction, simile, paradox, or oxymoron, causing a shock by the reader by the obvious dissimilarity and distance between or stunning incompatibility of the objects compared. One of the most famous conceits is John Donne, a valediction in Forbidding Morning, a poem in which Dawn compares two souls in love to point on a geometer's compass. So when we talk about the basic means thing, the father is the John Donne and revolutionary changes during English poetry after Shakespearean age and employed conceits in poetry in abundance. And he changed everything in the Elizabethan courtly love lyrics, provoked a new generation with the originality of the text. And it is a certain introduction again during the age of exploration, like beyond the physique. And in the age of discovery, it revolves and explore. They explore more things, and Europeans began exploring the world in sea in search of trading partner, new goods, and new trade rules. So it begins in the age of exploration. Some points in characteristics are conceits, concentration, dramatic, hyperbole, and wit. To the virgin, to make much of the time, metaphysical characteristic is carpe diem. It is mentioned there. Then not be coy, but use your time. And while ye marry, go marry. For having lost but once your prime, you may forever tarry. Seize of the day, and it contains a single idea, single day concentration. And in Good Morrow, repetition of the theme of love shows oneness, concentration, and it shows dramatic nature. And there are conceits involved during in the Good Morrow, and it discovered in the age of exploration, and it includes hyperbole also, as mentioned over here. There is another song, Go and Catch a Falling Liar. So it begin with dramatic beginning with metaphysical conceits and wit. And it includes hyperbole also, along with the theme of fickle nature of woman and loose woman. It has been mentioned over here. There is another metaphysical poetry to his poem Mistress. It included metaphysical hyperbole and carpe diem, that is obviously included. And it has a concentration of single idea and included paradox and conceit. And the theme is importance of dignity for a girl and honest. The whole thing has been mentioned over here. So I hope you understand the basic things and characteristics of metaphysical poetry and how it can be included, and various things can be included during the writing of the metaphysical poetry, like carpe diem and paradox, and what are their key roles in the poetry, and what are the basic points I have already mentioned about the metaphysical poetry. I hope you like this video, and if you like, do share and subscribe to my channel for further video, and please comment if you want any further lecture about anything, so please do in the comment box, comment me in the comment box. So I will make it soon as possible for you. Thank you guys. Thank you.